Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Star Wars, Terminator, Hercules, The Matrix, iRobot, Ex Machina, and even Little Shop of Horrors. This isn't just a list of random movies with the thinnest thread of connection. It's the monster being the monster. The creature, Hal, Darth Vader, Skynet, Hercules, Agent Smith, Vicky, Ava, and Audrey too. But while many of these characters are considered villains of the stories that they're in, not all of them are. Possibly less when adjusting for their point of view, but this is a list of creations and people who destroyed or defeated their creators, or at least tried. The obvious exception would seem to be Hercules, but hear me out. If Hades, I'm not even going to get into the mix of Heracles versus Hercules and Hades versus Pluto, Greek versus Roman names, or that Hades wasn't even a bad guy. But if he hadn't sent Pain and Panic to kidnap Hercules, hadn't had them drain his power, and they didn't fail, hadn't baited him by sending in Meg, hadn't told him about it, and hadn't made a deal that she wouldn't get hurt, Hercules wouldn't have won. He stood against Hades, not even knowing who he was, and he gave his life for the woman he loves. Hades directly led Hercules to becoming a god. While there were other factors, of course, life just happens, stories happen. But Hades created the one person who could defeat him. And this happened a ton in ancient Greek and Roman mythologies. It all came down to hubris. Some things, apparently in this case, even the gods had to deal with at one level or another. My name is Renee. You're listening to Detours in Archaeology. And this is Nirriti and the Chaos of Pride. At this point, you're probably wondering, why is she going through a whole trope talk? Well, it's not a book or a movie plot climax. It is, but it's not only that. It is hubris. It's playing God. In Greek tragedy, it's excessive pride towards or defiance of the gods, leading to their retribution or a nemesis. Though, in general, it's just excessive pride or self-confidence. And in the stories, this basically always leads to the antagonist's downfall. Recently, many of these stories have been centered around AI taking over and ruling the human race. It all makes sense because that is a human creation that could easily lead to our destruction. But really, it would only be one of so many different ways that we are destroying ourselves for the future every single day. But as far as I've gone with this diatribe, this is not about hubris in itself. It's about a particular character, a particular Goa'uld, who took their lust for power over creation, especially for the selfish reasons, way too far, and got killed for their trouble. The Goa'uld in question here is Nirriti, from Sanskrit, sometimes spelled Nirriti, named after the Hindu goddess of death, decay, sorrow, misfortune, darkness, chaos, destruction, pain, and pretty much all things bad. The Sanskrit word Nirriti means decay, and it is derived from nir, literally to separate, and can be interpreted as devoid of irti. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, even though I know I'm not. Which, in the simplest terms, is a state of disorder or chaos or lawlessness. Specifically, it more or less means the guardian to the absence of divine or cosmic disorder. This term was used in Vedic texts to denote a realm of non-existence and absolute darkness that threatened to consume those who failed to perform their duties to offer sacrifices and procreate. In Nirriti, there was no light, no food, and no children. There were none of the necessary elements of Vedic life and ritual. Nirriti is mentioned in Rig Veda from praise or at least derived from the partial root of praise, and William Williams, who was a 19th century translator, translated Rig Veda as a Veda of praise or hymn Veda, and also knowledge was part of it, and it was the oldest known ancient Indian collection of Vedic Sanskrit hymns, the sutras, that most scholars believe that the sounds and text of the Rig Veda have been orally transmitted with precision since the 2nd millennium BCE, making its early layers among the oldest extant texts of any Indo-European language as one of the 4 sacred canonical Hindu texts, Shruti, known as the Vedas. Only one Shakha, which means a Hindu theological school that specializes in learning specific Vedic texts or the traditional text followed by such school, to survive until today, namely the Sakalya Shakha. Much of the content contained in the remaining shakhas is now lost or unavailable in the public forum. In these texts, Nirriti is named, primarily to seek protection from her or to implore her during a possible departure, as in death. In one hymn, X59, she is mentioned several times, summarizing her nature and also requesting her departure from the sacrificial site. In the Taittiriya Brahmana, meaning Brahmana of the school of Taittiri, Nirriti is described as dark, dressed in dark clothes, and her sacrificial shares are dark husks, though that one doesn't mention her hair. In Atharva Veda, from Priest and Knowledge, or Knowledge Storehouse of the Atharvans, the procedures of everyday life, part of the 4th Veda, Nirriti is described as having golden locks. In the Shatapatha Brahmana, literally Brahmana of 100 paths, Nirriti is associated with the southwest quarter as her region, which will come back later. However, elsewhere in the same text, she is said to live in the kingdom of the dead, which was, I suppose, a realm of the dead, since it was southwest and the south was the actual realm of the dead ruled by Yama. In later Hindu texts, Nirriti was reconceptualized as an actual deity. According to some texts, she is the wife of Adharma, meaning that which is not in accord with Dharma, or unrighteousness. Her change in divine status signifies an important component of Prakriti, the original or natural form or condition of anything, original or primary substance, for the Purusha, and for the cosmic beings to dwell in forests. And Nirriti is also the mother of 3 Rakshasas, a race of usually malevolent beings, and literally means demon or fiend. Shows up in D&D as well. Their names were Mrityu, death, Bhaya, fear, and Mahabhaya, terror, who are collectively referred to as Nirrita. Other texts portray her as the daughter of Adharma and Himsa, which means violence, the opposite of Ahimsa, nonviolence. Also, in this version, she married her brother, Arita, not Arta, different, and became the mother of Naraka, the personification of hell and Maya. Some texts identify Nirriti with other inauspicious goddesses, such as Jarishthara or Lakshmi. In this context, she is described as having emerged from the Samudra Manthana, literally the churning of the ocean, which was made of milk, by the Devas and the Asuras, which was a major legendary event described in the Vishnu Purana, explaining the origin of Amrita, the elixir of eternal life. In later Hinduism, Nirriti also was regarded as a male god, as a Dikapala, a guardian of the directions of the southwest. This is not unlike the goddess Nirriti. Nirriti, as a man, is sometimes included among the Rudras, the forms of the god Rudra, who is associated with Lord Shiva, but was described as the son of Sutanu. Descriptions of the god Nirriti vary across scriptures. According to the Agamas, Nirriti is described as having dark skin, a large body, and wearing yellow garments. His vahana, or mount, a being such as an animal or mythic entity used as a vehicle, is either a man or a lion. The encyclopedia-like text, the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, states that Nirriti has a terrifying appearance with ill-looking eyes, a gaping mouth, and exposed teeth. The same scripture also provides a different account, stating that Nirriti's vahana is a donkey and that he holds a danda, a large staff, in his hand. The text also mentions that Nirriti has 4 consorts named Devi, Krishnangi, Krishavandana, and Krishnapasha. According to another scripture, the Devi Bhagavata Purana, Nirriti resides in a city named Krishnajana, which is located in the southwestern part of Mount Meru. The city is said to have an area of 2,500 yojanas, a distance measurement, according to some sources, defined as the distance an army can march in one day, ranging from 3.5 to 15 kilometers, depending on the text. But in Stargate, well, now that I've provided an extremely muddled glimpse into the actual mythological figure, let me mess it all up with the Stargate SG-1's version. The main way to tell the mythological context is by the sari she is wearing, which was a white one, which also makes sense to a goddess of death since white is traditionally the color of mourning, just like in Asia and multiple countries and cultures in Africa. It's interesting that European tradition went black for mourning and white for marriage. Well, that was a Queen Victoria thing. We saw color before. But some background information for Nirriti in SG-1. When the Goa'uld still had dominion over Earth, Nirriti had little interest whatsoever in political bickering or in military power. Her primary concern was with her study of humans and how their physical abilities as hosts could be improved. The other Goa'uld, however, would not give her the time or opportunity to delve into her studies. Kali, another Goa'uld in particular, aggressively sought to take over Nirriti's holdings in present-day India. Thus, Nirriti was forced to play a political game she hated. She partnered with Olokam, a relationship which would prove disastrous for him, but beneficial to Nirriti, of course. She slowly but surely established an extensive power base, and by the time of the Tari rebellion in Egypt, she had more than earned the title of System Lord. The Goa'uld Nirriti was regarded as a goddess of darkness and destruction in ancient Hindu culture, in the Stargate universe as well. Likely because of her continued research into how to modify human hosts, which often led to devastating casualties in her slave populations. She took to using the slaves of other system lords without their permission. Bastet and Kali, infuriated, managed to get Nirriti stripped of her system lord status. By this time, however, the galactic empires of the Goa'uld were vast, and even while demoted, Nirriti had no problem finding wayward human populations to perform tests on. And after Ra's death, she was able to regain much of her old territory in the power vacuum and was thus reinstated as a system lord. While investigating Lilin, Dr. Daniel Jackson found evidence indicating that Nirriti killed their creator, the ancient Lilith. While Daniel found that Nirriti is listed as among Lilith's children, he says it's more likely that Nirriti was Lilith's protege or briefly took her as a host to access Lilith's genetic knowledge before killing her. We never get the answer to this question in the show. In 1997, when the SGC made contact with Hanka, Nirriti wiped them out, fearing that the other system lords would discover her experiments in creating an advanced human, a Hawk-Tar. Hawk, advanced, Tar, Tari, human, host. She believed that taking a host with abilities like telekinesis and telepathy would make her more powerful than ever. I mean, admittedly, that's pretty true. She tried various experiments, which led to her killing the inhabitants of the planet Hanka with a bacterial infection. And the only survivor was a young girl named Cassandra, in whom she planted a Nakwita bomb in an effort to destroy our Stargate. Fortunately, Cassandra lived and was adopted by Janet Fraser, doctor in the SGC, in the episode named Singularity. Now we see Nirriti's mothership, but not her. And we do get a little backstory from Teal'c, just saying she's bad. She set one of the other Goa'uld up. It was a ploy, and they were destroyed. Moving forward to 1999, in the show, Nirriti is played by Jacqueline Samuda, making her first actual appearance in Fair Game, Season 3, Episode 3, which aired in 1999. In this episode, the System Lords, Nirriti, Kronos, and Yu, are part of the Goa'uld delegation. They arrive on Earth to negotiate its inclusion in the Asgard Protected Planets Treaty. During the negotiations, she was adamant that the Tari were too aggressive towards the System Lords, essentially arguing that the Tari were fair game and did not need the protection of the Asgard. During these discussions, it was revealed that Nirriti had long aspired to capture Kronos' domain, and using cloaking technology, Nirriti tried to kill Kronos in his quarters, framing Teal'c for the attack, and attacking him as well. Colonel Jack O'Neill decided to call the bluff, claiming that they knew she was experimenting with phase-shifting technology, and she exposed herself. She was captured and became prisoner of Kronos. After the betrayal of the System Lords, Nirriti was held captive by Kronos, but when he was later killed by SG-1 2 years later, Nirriti escaped his prison and managed to rebuild her resources. Nirriti resumed her experiments on another world and stumbled on pieces of Asgard technology capable of reading and altering a person's genetic code directly. In 2001, Nirriti, still on the run, discovered Cassandra Fraser was sick with a repercussion from the experimentation done back on Cassie's planet when she was a little girl. Nirriti infiltrated Stargate Command with the Goa'uld cloaking device after waiting in her lab before becoming invisible and following the SG-1 team back through the gate. When captured, she offered to help save Cassandra, who was dying from a retrovirus which was turning her into a Hawk-Tar, at least a precursor of it. In exchange for saving Cassandra, Nirriti demanded her freedom, the cloaking device, and a blood sample. General Hammond refused, but Dr. Janet Fraser, in desperation, held Nirriti at gunpoint, demanding help. Hammond then agreed, reminding Nirriti that Fraser was Cassandra's mother. Nirriti healed Cassandra and left her unharmed, though she warned that she would need a blood sample to avoid restarting her research. She didn't get it, though. About a year later, I guess, in 2002, there was an upcoming System Lord Summit, and Nirriti was still a renegade and also persona non grata among the System Lords. But she still managed to get control of her Jaffa again at some point, because it's mentioned in the episode The Warrior that Katanos, spoilers, who's really the minor god Imhotep, his rebel Jaffa, captured a shipment of weapons intended for Nirriti's Jaffa on a planet in her domain. Katano managed to convert many of her Jaffa to his cause, and he later sent a team of rebel Jaffa on a suicide mission to another planet in Nirriti's territory, but obviously the mission failed, but more it failed to kill Teal'c, even though it killed everyone else. And he stood up to them, they fought, Teal'c won, and that's actually when you find out the twist. Yes. Another character, Adrian Conrad, had a Goa'uld implanted in him to save his life, and it was able to help Colonel Frank Simmons, who is also a defector, who made a deal with Nirriti, allowing her to capture Dr. Fraser as part of Nirriti's revenge for denying her attempts to analyze Cassandra. In exchange, Nirriti gave Simmons information on how to genetically engineer humans into Jaffa. Her plan was thwarted when SG-1 rescued Fraser and killed or captured the new Jaffa she had created. And in 2003, the episode Metamorphosis starts with the Russian SG-4 team discovering a planet where Nirriti was using a piece of ancient technology to experiment on the local population through genetic manipulation. She deforms her victims while granting them superhuman abilities, with her continuing ultimate goal to create a Hoktar host for herself before restoring them to their original form, since the symbiote would not prefer to have an unattractive host. One of her victims informed the people at the SGC, after being taken back by SG-4, of all he knew about what Nirriti was doing. But he died, and when he did, turned into liquid. 2 SG teams returned to the planet to help the locals, but the locals didn't believe that Nirriti was evil because she had been the one to save them from a plague that ravaged their planet. The locals took Teal'c and Jonas Quinn prisoner after one of the locals, Edgar, discovered their intent to kill Nirriti in O'Neill's mind, and the others were captured when Nirriti returned. SG-1 tried to convince the locals of Nirriti's true motives while she conducted experiments on both SG teams, without success. That is, until finding that Jonas's Quinnan heritage, he's an alien, had caused him to be somewhat more evolved than people in the Tari, and she was positive that she could make him a Hoktar, and even asked if he would let her, since he would get all that power. Jonas refused, but Nirriti continued experimenting on him anyway. During this time, however, SG-1 was able to somewhat convince the locals of Nirriti's true intentions, and when she returned, Edgar read her mind and discovered all this terrible stuff to be true. One of the other victims kills Nirriti telekinetically by breaking her neck when they learn what she is really doing, and most importantly, that she is not a god. Unknown to anyone at the time, Nirriti's experiments on Jonas Quinn gave him the ability of precognition through a brain tumor that formed. Jonas had only had a limited control over it, and unlike what Nirriti believed, his heritage did not allow his body to stabilize, though it didn't liquefy, but ultimately the tumor was removed, and Jonas lost the ability that Nirriti had given him, but not before using it to aid SG-1 in defeating the Goa'uld Underlord Mott and his Jaffa in the episode Prophecy, which is also strange, which they also bring up that they went against what Jonas saw as a prophecy, but followed an ancient prophecy. That might have been because the ancients went forward in time, possibly, and then went back and wrote stuff down, but you don't find that out until later in the show. But Nirriti, she, at least in her current and final form, played God every day of their existence, and like the actual goddess, is seen as a deity of death and chaos. The Stargate Nirriti didn't truly have any control. It was all a farce, and she died from the chaos she brought into the world. What is cool is that while Nirriti was manipulating the genetics of humans from various planets, the currently female host-wearing Goa'uld is also working on males. We already know at this point in the show that symbiotes have no gender and can switch between biological hosts as well. But it's pretty cool that, perhaps without realizing it, that the Stargate writers may have inadvertently walked backwards into a hint at actual mythology, since I mentioned later in the mythology, Nirriti would also present as male. Getting back to the real mythology, the goddess Nirriti is a lesser-known deity in Hindu mythology compared to more widely recognized goddesses such as Durga, Lakshmi, and Kali. However, her narrative and the myths surrounding her convey significant moral and philosophical lessons pertinent to life's challenges, suffering, and the components of existence. They have a complex narrative framework that intertwines with various myths and cultural implications. As an embodiment of destruction, her stories explore the inevitable human experience of grief, failure, and the cycles of life and death. Nirriti is primarily referenced in texts such as the Rig Veda and is obviously significant within Hindu cosmology, which often views destruction as not merely an ending, but as a precursor to renewal and rebirth. Nirriti's role illustrates the balance of cosmic forces, where chaos may lead to new beginnings. She embodies destruction and chaos, often portrayed as a goddess who wields power over calamity. But in these texts, calamities and tragedies are framed not only as things to avoid, but also, like many gods of destruction in mythologies around the world, as essential aspects of the cyclical nature of life and rebirth. In this context, Nirriti serves as a reminder of the unavoidable presence of sorrow, and thereby emphasizing the need for acceptance of one's fate, in a way, but also to cultivate resilience, and where possible, to fight back. In myths where Nirriti features prominently, she often intersects with broader themes of transformation and regeneration. For instance, the Bradakali Mahatmaya depicts cycles of violence and regeneration as inherent to the goddess's narrative. Here, the idea that destruction precedes creation becomes apparent, underscoring the philosophical understanding that death and rebirth inherently coexist within the cosmic order. Such tales often convey the moral that confronting adversity and acknowledging the darkness within life contribute to a holistic understanding of existence. The mythology surrounding her suggests a duality in many aspects of divine manifestation, in which destruction is inherently linked to the potential for regeneration. This theme is common in narratives across Hindu texts, particularly evident in the goddesses such as Durga and Kali, who embody ferocity and transformation. These narratives highlight the importance of confronting adversity for spiritual and existential growth. For instance, the Bhadrakali Mahatmaya narrative illustrates the cycles of violence and restoration, emphasizing that the struggles posed by deities such as Nirriti are integral to the cosmic order, even though she's not actually in it. Many goddesses representing various aspects of feminine power serve dual roles as creators and destroyers, embodying both nurturing and fearful dimensions, like Kali and her main form as one of the aspects of Shiva's wife, poverty. This duality resonates in the complexities of social norms and the expectations of women, as reflected in the portrayals and stories of figures like Sita and Kali, who respectively represent devotion and empowerment, often stemming from profound sorrow or conflict. An example of this is celebrating during Navratri, a Hindu festival that lasts for 9 nights, honors the goddess Durga and the divine feminine power, Shakti. It is celebrated 4 times out of the year, with the most widely observed being the post-monsoon Sharada Navratri in the autumn, in September-October. This festival involves praying to the 9 forms of the goddess, fasting, and celebrating that vary by region, often culminating in the 10th day, either called Vijayadasami or Dussehra. The various aspects of the feminine form allude to themes associated with Nirriti, emphasizing her resilience and transformative power. By celebrating both the nurturing and destructive aspects of femininity, the festival emphasizes the rich symbolism associated with Durga, even though she is more protective in her war aspect, Kali, and in an extension, Nirriti, even though she was a completely different goddess, which would reinforce social values concerning the importance of the bad parts of life as part of the human experience. Nirriti can be juxtaposed with tales of transformation found in these other goddesses, in which they rise from chaotic conditions to dismantle malevolent forces. The mythological subtext stresses the importance of responding to adversity with strength and dignity. thereby encapsulating the moral of harnessing inner power to navigate life's patterns. Vritta is commonly translated as rule, law, or cosmic order. Its antonym is dra, deceiving, lying, seeking to harm. Both Rita and Dra are active, meaning Dra might actually be a lie that is actually enacted or an untruth that is not only conceived but is also acted upon. It is the active power of Rita by which the sun moves across the sky, that rivers flow, and by extension that people speak truth, satya, and perform duties. Generally, Nirriti is known with calamity, misfortune, and death, particularly untimely death, poverty, and infertility. There are also some indications that she is associated with stealing children, and the Rakshasas, with whom she is associated as their mother or otherwise, are known for disrupting sacrificial rituals. Now, getting back to Nirriti in the Vedas, in the Rig Veda, we know that Nirriti is a personification of destruction, calamity, corruption, and death. She is also, however, the abode or place of dissolution or decay. A verse in the Rig Veda describes the realm of Nirriti as an endless pit without light or warmth, a place reserved for those who act against the basic ideals of Vedic society. Those who are condemned to the realm of Nirriti do not receive nourishment from the offerings of their descendants, nor from their own accumulated merit. In this story, she is the daughter of Surabai, the cow goddess, the wife of Dharma, the destroyer of all things, and is the goddess of disease or death. Nirriti, meaning misery, is worshipped to ward off disease. The ceremony dedicated to her features black ornaments, and the worshippers wear black garments. She's also considered the goddess who punishes the sinners, but she also protects those who are born into crime as long as they remain ethical. In another source, Nirriti is the Vedic goddess of death, the spouse of Nirrita, the guardian deity of the southwest, and the mother of the Rakshasis and Rakshasas, who dwell in isolated places and watch over those who are hungry or in mourning. Though I don't know whether it was particularly to help or just to watch those people suffer. The following hymn from the Rig Veda implores her to leave the sacrifice alone and to depart to distant places so that no calamity may befall. His life hath been renewed and carried forward as two men car-borne by the skillful driver. One falls and seeks the goal with quickened vigor. Let Nirriti depart to distant places. Here is a song for wealth and food in plenty. Let us do many deeds to bring us glory. All these doings shall delight the singer. Let Nirriti depart to distant places. May we overcome our woes with acts of valor. As heaven is over earth, hills over lowlands, all these are deeds the singer hath considered. Let Nirriti depart to distant places. Give us not up as prey to death. O scorn us still, let us look upon the sun arising. Let our old age with passing days be kindly. Let Nirriti depart to distant places. And a curse, which can also be found in the Atharva Veda, reads, whenever yonder person in his thoughts and with his speech offers sacrifice accompanied by obligations and benedictions, may Nirriti, allying herself with death, smite his offering before it takes effect. Many sorcerers, Nirriti as well as Rakshas, mar his true work with error. May the gods, dispatched by Indra, scatter, churn, his sacrificial butter. May that which yonder person offers not succeed. As I discussed earlier in the Mahabharata, Nirriti is the wife of Adharma, the mother of the three sons, Baya, Mahabaya, and Mrityu. Another version of this text says that she is the daughter of Adharma and Himsa, who is violence or injury. But she is also, however, one of the great creations of the Brahma, as recounted in the Bhagavatam, quoting here, translated of course. Here is the story of Nirriti. Brahma's creative energy was showing his body and mind. Narada popped out from the lap. Daksa trotted out of his thumb. Vasistha spiraled out of his breath. Bhrigu crawled out of his skin. Kratsu muscled his way out of his hand. Pulaha sprouted out of his navel. Pulastya wriggled out of his ear. Ingira gushed out of his mouth. Atri brimmed over the eyelid. Marisi dawned out of his mind. Dharma burst out of his right breast. Adharma scratched his way out of his back. The god love, Kama, blossomed out of his heart. Anger bounced off his brow. Greed gyrated on his upper lip. The goddess of speech, Vak, vaulted out of his mouth with the aid of a pole of nimble wit. The oceans rained down from his phallus. Nirriti plucked out of his anus. And the sage Kardama stepped out of his shadow. Dharma was Lord Narayana himself. Thus, Brahma's creations came out of his body and mind. According to the Agni Purana, the spirit of the doer of bad deeds leaves the body through the anus. The implication that if the jiva leaves the body through the lower orifices, rather than, for example, the head, then the future of the jiva is bound to the lower worlds. Nirriti is often connected to birds of ill omen. In a section of the Tayatiri Samhita that lists the various animals to be sacrificed to the gods, the pigeon, owl, and hare are listed as being sacrificed to Nirriti. Both pigeons and owls were considered inauspicious birds, and there is a charm in the Atharva Veda that refers to the pigeon as the messenger of Nirriti. There are folk stories in North India in which Bhutas, believed to be the spirits of those who have suffered untimely deaths. Learn more about the Bhutas in one of my ghost episodes from last year. Link will be in description. Believed to be the spirits of those who have suffered many untimely deaths take on the form of owls, ulaka. In the Dharma Sastras, the cry of an owl is considered a negative sign. A student of the Vedas who hears the owl is enjoined not to continue his studies until he has slept. The association of owls and Nirriti is quite interesting, as later the owl becomes the vehicle for Lakshmi, but this also might be an instance of the goddess conquering her animal associated with misfortune or delusion and taking it as her vehicle, as with Ganesha and the rat or mouse. As I stated earlier, in later texts, Nirriti's sex and appearance are changed. In the Mahanirvana Tantra, Nirriti is depicted as a dark green god seated on a horse and bearing a sword, leading to different meanings and lessons associated with his importance and value. Unlike in the Stargate version, the direct narratives of hubris aren't specifically linked to the goddess Nirriti in Hindu mythology. Hubris is pretty common in Hindu mythology, but not especially for the actual gods unless they were punished by more powerful gods, which could be a thing, especially in Greek mythology. However, the themes of arrogance and excessive pride do resonate throughout various mythological tales, particularly concerning the consequences faced by powerful characters who overstep. In broader Hindu mythology, hubris often leads to downfall, aligning with the underlying moral lessons that underpin many tales involving various deities. Nirriti is associated with calamities arising when natural balances are disturbed. In Hindu cosmology, hubris can lead to actions that upset these balances, resulting in dire consequences. Figures who exhibit arrogance often invoke the wrath of deities and suffer as a result. In essence, tales embodying this moral might indirectly connect to Nirriti given her role. One of the best examples of a drawing parallel to the theme of hubris found in tales surrounding the Asuras who frequently defied the gods. Characters like Ravana from The Ramayana exemplify hubris through their overwhelming pride and ambition. Ravana's fit of pride blinds him to the consequences of abducting Sita and challenging Rama, leading to his own destruction. In each case, the narratives emphasize that hubristic pride can invoke divine retribution, manifesting suffering tied to the nature of misfortune associated with those deities. The narrative of King Hiranyakashipu, who defies Vishnu and seeks immortality through sheer arrogance, is another instance of hubris leading to ruin. His eventual downfall, despite his formidable strength, illustrates the dangers of excessive pride, aligning with broader narrative themes that emphasize the importance of maintaining the natural order. These stories explore moral symbols of struggle against hubris, and through the lens of modern interpretations, scholars have noted that individuals in positions of power often exhibit traits of hubris and can lead to catastrophic failures. This reflects the common concerns in both ancient and contemporary discourse on government and ethics, resonating with moral lessons about disobedience that often lead to calamity, or just a f***ed up government. Nirriti's character as a goddess of misfortune and death and decay aligns with the lessons about humanity and the consequences of hubris embedded in various narratives throughout Hindu lore, especially given her symbolic connection to the Furies, the Arenais, and also known as the Eumenides, chthonic goddesses of vengeance in ancient Greek mythology. These interconnected stories, maybe. Hinduism has been around for a long time, and they did trade with people in Greece and Rome. And principles underscore the importance of acknowledging natural limits and the consequences of overreaching ambition, thereby fostering humility and respect for the cosmic order. But that doesn't mean you can't stand up to it every once in a while. Just be humble about it. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Detours in Archaeology, Nirriti, and the Chaos of Pride. I hope you liked it. If you did, please do all the things. Give it a like, an upvote, rate it 5 stars on whatever podcast app you're listening to. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to my website, subscribe to my Patreon. It's free. Head over to my shop at printify.com. The link is also on my website. And you can find some really cool merch that I just randomly made up. The shirts are quotes that my boyfriend just randomly says, and it just makes me laugh. So I put it on a t-shirt. Not all of them, only some of them. Yes, randomly I have clever thoughts too. It's weird. Especially in this episode, thank you for your patience with my speaking of Hindi words and names, titles, everything. It is not a language I grew up with at all, and I very much appreciate your patience and your understanding. And if you know how much I messed up or want to correct me on anything that I said in this episode, please, you can email me directly. You can comment on this video. You can comment on my website. Anything. It would be great to know anything that I'm doing wrong and how I can fix it, because that is what I like to do here, is learn. I also have a Blue Sky account in which I mostly just post updates on what I'm doing at my website. You get pictures that I'll also be posting on Instagram, and just some extra thoughts that I have going in the course of days where I have the wherewithal to actually post something. Blah, 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 blah. I have received some emails from people giving me different ideas about different things to do in the future. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And I would very much like to write about some of the things that were talked about. Let me know if you want your name attributed when I do it. Otherwise, it can be anonymous. All the music is from Scott Buckley and can be found at his website at scottbuckley.com.au. For the fun fact this week, me and my partner are going to Portugal for about a week and a half, and some of my favorite food is Asian food inspired by Portugal. So one is the egg custard tart, or the pastéis. Here, I thought this would be easy. Pastel de nata, the cream pastry. Now there are two, well maybe I guess three main styles. The Portuguese egg tart, the English egg tart, and the Hong Kong egg tart. Both of which probably influenced the Portuguese egg tart, and the English egg tart probably influenced the Hong Kong egg tart that was created back in the 1920s when they became common in Hong Kong. The origin of the Portuguese version of the egg custard tart is one called the pastéis de nata, or Portuguese egg custard tart, which was believed to have been created by monks at... Kind of want to go visit that now when I go to Portugal. Monks at the Jerónimos Monastery in Lisbon around the 18th century. The pastel de nata, or plural, pastéis de nata, for 200 years. This another one says the early 19th century. So, not exactly sure when. Egg yolks were a very common ingredient due to their widespread availability. Egg whites were used for starching clothes and for making wine, leaving a surplus of yolks, which were then used in baking and custard desserts. There is a French influence on them through time, just by their patisserie techniques, and they do have a global spread. I know because I've had them in America, but that was also more of kind of a cross between the Hong Kong egg custard tart, which has its roots in the British version and was introduced to China in the 1920s. And it was adopted by Chinese bakeries in Guangdong after the Portuguese and the English were colonizing everyone in Asia, and is and was a staple of the dim sum restaurant, which is one of my favorite places to go eat. But the differences between them, between the Portuguese and the Hong Kong style, differ in all aspects, really. Their crust and their filling. The Portuguese tarts have a richer, more caramelized custard in a flaky puff pastry, and I can't wait to try it from Portugal. While Hong Kong's tarts have the smoother, lighter custard in a short crust or a puff pastry, which I think I've had both of them, namely at dim sum places, especially in San Francisco. And the Portuguese egg tart is generally caramelized, scorched with a dark, almost burnt spots, which give it more of a creme brulee flavor. So it's richer and sweeter flavor profile as a dessert. While the Hong Kong egg tart is generally smooth and yellow without caramelization, and it's lighter with more of a taste close to the classic egg custard. However, I often have the egg custard in milk tea, and it tastes really good. But the stuff that I can get at the store will often have that slightly burnt spots, without the whole thing being a creme brulee top. It's definitely not hard either. And second is tempura. And the other is tempura batter. Tempura is a typical Japanese dish, which consists of seafood or vegetables with the thin batter that's deep fried. But it didn't originate in Japan. I mean, it did originate in Japan, But it originated in the 16th century when Portuguese Jesuits brought the Western style of cooking method of coating foods with flour and then frying it when they went over to Japan to trade and convert everyone, do those colonization things. But yeah. The next episode is going to be a little kind of New Year's, Christmas, end of year celebration, but also a little bit of mix of father time in general and death. So until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep taking those detours. Thanks again.